Hey, lucky guy, you found me again. You found my lost radio. I congratulate you. You're quite smart. As you can see, today I have a different setting. 3D model, Christmas themed, by the way, and a noir inspired environment. But today I'm here to talk about Lovecraft and why Lovecraftian horror isn't matched. Because we all know what horror is. It's an intense fear and repulsion that triggers an immediate reaction, running, hiding, or fighting. Horror is not bound by the limits of reality. In fact, that is its greatest strength. It's an emotion that rises from the depths of the human brain, and it is the very same mind which, when faced with an unknown threat, begins to unleash the wildest fantasies, tailored specifically to each of us, for there is no one better at terrifying us than ourselves. H.P. Lovecraft understood this perfectly. Lovecraft was a man with problematic tendencies, yes, but it is that same mind of his that gave us a unique genre, cosmic horror. Humanity has always looked upward towards the bright firmament full of stars and phenomena we may never fully understand. And that is precisely what terrifies us the most. We hate not knowing what lies beyond. Human curiosity pushes us to overthrow each barrier that keeps us humble. We are experts at using everything at our disposal to invent tools that help us satisfy that curiosity. We need to solve absolutely everything, and whatever cannot be solved frightens us. One example of this is the voynich manuscript. It is a book written in an incomprehensible language with strange illustrations that no one has been able to decipher up to this day. Not even the most accomplished cryptographers have been able to uncover the nature of this mysterious book. The mere idea of what its pages might contain is enough to instill fear in the people. Yes, it is possible that is nothing more than the wild imaginings of an schizophrenic mind. But what if it isn't? What if it truly contains rights beyond our known limits? Lovecraft plunges his hands into this sensation, into the dread we all feel when we are in danger but have no idea what lies beyond the curtain. Whether it's above the clouds or in the abyssal depths of the ocean, there is always something crawling and hiding from us, or perhaps our minds are simply too limited to understand it. Cosmic horror works precisely because of this, but it works especially well in literature. In other media, like film or video games, this feeling of deep fear is difficult to replicate, precisely because they are audiovisual mediums. They must be graphic and explicit so viewers know what is happening. But literature doesn't. In books, you can use the reader's mind against them. You can describe impossible situations and colors that do not exist, forbidden angles and clouds of mystery that surround everything that escapes our senses. Lovecraft also used a very intriguing element, even in modern science, the sea. Everything related to the seas and oceans remains shrouded in ignorance, despite the fierce efforts of the scientific community, which strives to discover and explain the phenomena hidden beyond the abyssal depths, where human eyes have yet to reach. The deeper you descend into the ocean, the less you can see. Sunlight dies as it grazes the edges of the abyss, refusing to touch what must never be discovered. Water pressure grows more and more intense, threatening to crush anything foreign, anything that dares to stand down there. For only that which is born of the abyss has the right to walk within it. And if we go beyond, in the opposite direction, we find space. A void that stretches infinitely, larger than we could ever hope to understand, so immense that we can only fantasize about reaching the furthest corner and witnessing the older stars. A vastness so deep we do not even know for sure what holds the universe together. Planets where diamonds rain from the sky, planetary crusts that breathe fire, frozen wastelands where storms never cease. All of these are landscapes alien to our sense of familiarity. They terrify us, they intrigue us, they are mathematical problems we long to solve. Human impulse strives to make the familiar so they stop being frightening. We want to control everything so we can feel safe. We refuse to accept the possibility that humanity is nothing more than a microbe under a giant microscope. It's not enough for us to live. We need to dominate. That's why the horror Lovecraft weaves into his works is so effective, because it denies our most basic impulse and strips us from even the slightest possibility of dominating what actually scares us. It forces us to lower our heads and accept that we are nothing but filth under the shoes of creatures and concepts we will never understand. All of this erodes the assumptions humanity has clung to since time immemorial. Lovecraft was not afraid to drag humanity down from its self-imposed throne. These sensations I've described are extremely difficult to replicate in any medium other than literature. It is very hard to depict all of this visually without diminishing its impact in the process. Many creators use blurry textures and distorted concepts to evoke fear and revulsion. But even with the slightest hint, our brains fill the gaps with ease, and likely with something far less terrifying than what we might imagine. Even so, the use of semi-gelatinous substances, viscous slimes, and visceral elements tends to conform a common yet effective source. And when crafting horror stories, especially cosmic ones, in another visual medium, this is what people usually use. After all, our bodies are made of these things. They are things that should remain hidden from our sight, and seeing them in unfamiliar contexts unsettles us and disturbs us. In conventional horror, adapting movies into books or vice versa is not usually a difficult challenge, considering that conventional horror is based on things we already know and know how to deal with. For example, a movie where a killer is trying to hunt down a group of teenagers trapped in a secluded cabin in the mountains. Although it's not something that happens often, we know how humans work. Situations like that create tension and fear in our hearts, but they don't delve deeper than the killer's desire and the protagonist's survival instinct. It is easier content to digest. Films, books, or video games with clear objectives and easily classifiable elements. In summary, Lovecraft used the best tool possible. We are our own worst enemy, and our impressionable minds are capable of filling all the gaps with the most horrifying images. Lovecraft does not treat us like fools. He doesn't spoon feed us. He lets the process think in our own way, but under his rules. That's why it's so difficult to replicate the horror the way he did. And that is all for today's video. And I hope you liked it. If you are here, please consider commenting and consider dropping a like. Will you? Thank you. I am Princess Kiki, and I'll see you next time.